Discovered, the incredible journey of a mail-order bride who transformed love in just 30 days. Cecilia stood at the window of her cramped Maplewood apartment, watching snowflakes dance in the icy wind. She thought of her children, Lily and Ben, their laughter echoing through the house. But beneath the joy of motherhood lay a looming worry how to secure a brighter future. Her heart raced. What kind of mother seeks love through a mail-order bride service? But the whispers of disapproval were drowned out by visions of a better life, where her children could chase dreams instead of finding just enough to survive. Every day, she worked double shifts at the diner, her hands aching from flipping pancakes and pouring coffee. Yet, even as she ran on fumes, she clung to hope. The cold reality of Maplewood pressed heavy against her shoulders. Neighbors watched as she waded into uncharted waters, their skeptical eyes piercing like arrows. Could a stranger from another country really bring them joy? When Cecilia first connected with Jacob online, it felt like the breath of fresh air she'd longed for. He was a veteran, gentle and kind, with scars that ran deeper than the skin. They shared evenings filled with conversation that cracked open the door of understanding. Her heart fluttered with excitement, belief that she could rediscover happiness. Their stories intertwined like vines, each struggling in their own way. She was a mother fighting for her children, and he was a man wrestling with ghosts. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as their connection deepened, the town's frowns grew into frowns that turned into fifths of salt in wounds. Each trip to the park, filled with laughter and soft winter light, was tainted by glances of judgment. What kind of woman is she? They whispered, while Jacob remained an outsider in a town built on tradition. Her children, innocent to the bitterness around them, were left confused by the contrast between their mother's dreams and their neighbor's resentment. Then it happened. An old friend of Jacob's was in an accident, news that rattled them like a thunderstorm. The chaos pulled Jacob back into a world of darkness where emotions clawed at him, the calls ceased, and the cold silence between them wrapped around Cecilia like a suffocating blanket. The townsfolk reveled in the drama, each conversation turning to the risks she took, the love she chased. Cecilia felt the scorn like icy fingers gripping her heart. At the brink of despair, she stood alone. Should chasing love cost her community? Could there be a future despite the tensions, the whispers? Should she let them win? In desperate yearning, she reached out, but found only emptiness. Love seemed to slip through her fingers like grains of sand. Cecilia's heart thudded loudly with each question, the warmth of her family at stake. Would she and Jacob rise against the storm or crumble under its weight? The winter air thickened around her, filled with uncertainty, leaving only one burning question: can love conquer the bitterest of doubts when the world seems set against you? Cecilia inhaled deeply, feeling the chill seep into her bones. The snow outside was relentless, piling up in soft mounds, just like the weight of her anxieties. Her phone buzzed on the counter, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Jacob, something simple: thinking of you. Her heart fluttered at the words, the warmth of his sentiment battling against the cold that settled around her. Yet, alongside the joy came the familiar pang of concern. Would he still be thinking of her after everything? With so much silence between them, was there enough left to hold on to? Determined, she thumbed out a quick response: miss you. How are you holding up? The wait felt eternal. Each second ticked sluggishly by. She watched the snow swirl outside, hesitant to move. Her children flitted around the apartment, oblivious to the storm brewing in their mother's heart. Lily's laughter rang like bells while Ben constructed a fort made of scattered pillows and thick blankets. They were lost in their own world, shining a light even in the darkest moments of their mother's day. Finally, Jacob's reply came through. Not great. I'll be back soon. Those words sent a jolt down her spine. She wanted to be strong for him, to reach out across the invisible divide that had formed. But what if he needed space? Or what if the darkness inside him had swallowed him whole? Cecilia took another breath, firmly planting herself on the edge of the couch. She thought of Jacob trapped in a storm of his own, just as she felt trapped in Maplewood. She couldn't ignore the gnawing doubts. Could love be enough to bridge the gap, to weather this storm together? Or was it already too late? As the evening settled in, she wrapped herself in a blanket, the soft fibers holding her as comfortingly as a hug. The news played quietly in the background, narrating tragedies, losses, chaos far removed from the highs and lows of her little apartment. But there it was, a flicker of a story about a community rallying together for a common cause. It struck a chord deep within her. What if she brought the community together? What if they rallied behind her? Would they see past her choices, past the judgments? Could they embrace the love she was forging with Jacob? Suddenly, the idea sparked brightly, illuminating the shadows cloaking her heart. It was risky and dangerous, but it was also a chance. Cecilia sprang to life, pulling out a notepad she had stashed away for grocery lists. She began mapping out her plan, filling the pages with names, potential supporters, and a vision of unity she dared to believe could happen. Her children watched curiously, sensing her shift. "Mom, what are you doing?" Ben asked, eyes wide as he hopped off his pillow fortress. "I'm planning something special," she said, a grin spreading on her face, igniting a flicker of hope in her chest. As she scribbled her ideas, facing her fears with every stroke of the pen, her phone buzzed once more. It was a video call from Jacob. Heart racing, she hit accept. The moment his weary face appeared on the screen, everything else faded away. "Cecilia," he started, his eyes searching hers. "I've been meaning to tell you," and just like that, everything hung in the air, heavy with promise or peril. Could their love withstand everything, or was she about to discover the truth she least expected? Cecilia felt the weight of Jacob's gaze through the screen, the air crackling with unspoken words. She could see the shadows under his eyes, a sign of the battles he had been fighting. It made her heart ache. She wanted to reach out, to pull him closer, but the distance felt like an endless chasm. "Cecilia," he repeated, drawing her back. "I've been meaning to tell you I've been struggling." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. She noticed his hands trembling slightly, the flicker of vulnerability in his expression nearly broke her. "I know," she whispered, her own voice shaking. "But you don't have to do this alone." He hesitated, searching her face as if looking for a lifeline. I thought I could handle it. But I can't." The admission was like a cold gust of wind, hitting her hard. She wanted to reach out, to physically bridge the space. "Jacob, we can figure this out together. I'm planning something. I want to rally the community. Maybe it can help you, help us." There was a silence, heavy and deep. His brow furrowed as he took in her words. "You want to bring the community into this?" "Yes," she affirmed, her voice gaining strength. "I think we need them. You need them. It's been so isolating, and I want to show you that you're not alone in this." He looked down, his fingers tracing patterns on the table. "I don't know if they will understand or accept after everything. People can surprise you," she urged, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. "Just like you surprised me. We're all broken in some way. We just have to be brave enough to show it." Jacob's eyes lifted back to hers, uncertainty still masking his features. "What if I let you down again? What if they see me as I am now, weak?" "The only way to find out is to try," Cecilia said, her resolve firm. "We're all a little broken, Jacob. But together we can mend those pieces. We can be stronger." He took a deep breath, her words wrapping around him like a warm embrace. And in that moment, she felt a shift. It was subtle but unmistakable. "Okay, let us try. But I need you to promise me something." "Anything," she replied instantly, the urgency of his tone quickening her heart. Promise me you won't give up on me, even when it gets tough. I promise, she vowed, her heart swelling as she gazed into his eyes. We'll face it together. A small, tentative smile crept onto his face, melting some of the ice that had built up between them. Thank you for reminding me that I can have hope. Before she could respond, there was a sudden commotion in the background. Lily and Ben had embarked on a fervent pillow fight, their laughter echoing off the walls, a joyful distraction. They were oblivious to the emotional storm that had just calmed in their mother's heart. She couldn't help but smile at her children. Looks like we've got a little party going on over here, she said, trying to lighten the mood. Jacob chuckled softly, the sound like a melody after the storm. Maybe that's exactly what we need, some laughter. Yes, Cecilia agreed, the heaviness lifting a fraction, and a community ready to support us. As the call ended, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She grabbed her notepad again, her heart racing with ideas. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about a community, about hope, and, most importantly, it was about love. Mom! We need a referee. Ben shouted, pulling her from her thoughts. She laughed, her children a reminder that joy could be found even in chaos. As she walked toward the playful chaos, a determination burned within her. They were at the brink of something extraordinary. Cecilia knew this was just the beginning. But as she turned to join her kids, she couldn't shake the feeling that her plan would require more than just hope. The question lingered, was she truly prepared for the challenges ahead, or would the weight of it all prove too much? The following morning, the sun peeked through the curtains, spilling warm light across the kitchen table. Cecilia sat with a steaming cup of coffee, staring at her notepad littered with ideas. The laughter from the previous evening still echoed in her mind, but now, a new kind of anxiety gnawed at the edges of her hope. Mom! Look at this! Lily's cheerful voice broke through her thoughts. She held up a drawing, vibrant colors splashed across the page. It was a picture of their house, with stick figures painted as a family, a sun shining brightly above them. Cecilia's heart swelled. That's beautiful, sweetheart. We should put that on the fridge. Yeah. And can I write happy family on it? Of course you can. Cecilia smiled, the innocence of childhood washing away her worries for just a moment. As Lily ran off to grab the markers, Ben wandered into the room, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What's for breakfast? He murmured, still half asleep. Pancakes. You're just in time, she said, already reaching for the ingredients. She could feel the warmth of their little world, familiar and safe. But safety turned into urgency as reality stomped in. What would happen when they confronted the community? Could they let Jacob's vulnerability show? With each whisk of batter, she felt the weight of her promise she wouldn't let Jacob down. The determination ignited within her, blending with the sweetness of pancake syrup. Later that afternoon, she gathered everyone she could reach. Friends, neighbors, even acquaintances who had been harboring their own struggles came together in her backyard. The air buzzed with a mix of excitement and apprehension, every face reflecting stories that begged to be told. Okay, everyone, Cecilia called out, her voice steady despite how her heart raced. I want to invite you all here because we need each other more than we realize. There were murmurs, nods, and a few skeptical eyes. She noticed Jacob linger at the edge, his brow furrowing as hesitation danced across his features. But their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the flicker of hope he desperately held on to. You've all been through your own storms, she continued, breathing in the warmth of their gathered presence. I know life can make us feel isolated and weak. But we can lean on each other. We can heal together. The silence that filled the air was thick with anticipation. It felt as if the community was holding its breath. Then, Ben shouted, "Can we have snacks?" The tension broke, laughter erupted, and some of the adults exchanged amused glances. Cecilia laughed too, grateful for the levity. Sure. Snacks coming right up. But just as she turned to lead the group toward the food, Jacob stepped forward. "I want to say something," he said, his voice shaky but strong enough to command the room's attention. The crowd shifted, their expressions now focusing on him, the weight of his presence palpable. Cecilia could see the internal struggle tensing his shoulders. Was he ready for this? What if some of us don't want to share our struggles? He asked, a hint of fear coloring his words. What if it feels too exposing? She could sense the wavering confidence in Jacob, and her heart raced alongside him. Could he handle this moment? Could they all? Then we don't have to force it, she said gently, stepping forward to create a safe space. Sharing is optional. What matters is that we're here together. That in itself is a step. We stand stronger as a community. People began nodding again, a collective sigh of relief that resonated through the gathering. The tension eased, but as Jacob met her gaze, she knew this was just the beginning. Would Jacob find the strength to share, and would the community reciprocate? The reality of vulnerability weighed heavily, the air felt charged with possibility. Cecilia wondered if their small steps would lead to something larger. Her heart pounded as she felt the power of their growing connections. Would they really find healing, or would fear pull them back? And as laughter and chatter began to blossom around them, the real battle was still to come. What transformations awaited just beyond the horizon? As the afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the grass, laughter danced in the air, mingling with the aroma of snacks Cecilia had prepared. She felt buoyed by the camaraderie surrounding her, yet the gnawing anxiety still crept closer. This moment of connection was fragile, and deep down, she feared it would shatter with the wrong word or hesitation. Jacob remained at the periphery, his face a canvas of uncertainty. He shifted from one foot to the other, watching the mingling crowd. Cecilia sensed his struggle, a silent plea for courage. What would it take? Just a nudge, perhaps. "Hey, do you want to help me with the drinks?" she asked him, taking a few tentative steps toward him. He hesitated, then nodded, visibly grateful for the distraction. Together, they moved toward the cooler, sharing a quiet moment as she poured lemonade into cups. "Do you really think they'll understand?" Jacob asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cecilia met his gaze, her heart squeezing at the rawness in his eyes. "I do. They're here because they want to connect, because they need it. Just like you do." He nodded, but didn't respond, his brow still furrowed. Everyone else seemed engaged, and yet he felt a world apart, like a book waiting to be opened. The fear of revealing his story was thick on his lips. As the giggles of Lily and Ben floated back, Cecilia felt a rush of warmth at the sight of their untroubled faces. Children were so natural with their emotions, so effortlessly brave. She wondered when that simplicity became complicated with adulthood. "Look!" Lily shouted, running toward them. She was a flurry of energy, holding up her drawing. "It's our home, and we're all together. See?" Cecilia smiled, kneeling beside her to admire the art. "Just like that picture, everyone here is part of this community." Jacob glanced at the drawing, recognition passing over his features. For a brief moment, he smiled. Surely, he wanted that sense of belonging. Slowly, he began to relax, but the moment was fleeting as the chatter around them shifted in tone. A neighbor, Elaine, stepped forward. "I don't mean to interrupt, but I have something to share," she said, her voice steady yet somber. "This past year has been one of the hardest I've ever faced." Cecilia felt the energy shift. The crowd quieted, everyone tuning in to hear Elaine's story. It was tender and raw and wrapped in vulnerability. She spoke of loss, love, and the shadow of loneliness that had loomed over her. The community listened, breaths held, empathy blossoming between them. As Elaine finished, a wave of emotion rippled through the gathering. People nodded, some wiping away tears. This was what Cecilia had hoped for. This connection buried beneath layers of fear was rising to the surface. Cecilia turned to Jacob, who was now watching with wide eyes. Something was changing within him. Maybe it wasn't just the fear he faced but also a deep yearning to be part of something greater than himself. "Do you want to say something?" Cecilia asked quietly, nudging him gently. He shook his head, the moment still too big. But as he gazed at Elaine and the others, the warmth of their support seemed to wash over him. Unspoken words weighed heavily in the air, and Cecilia could practically see the battle in his chest, a longing for release warring with his fears. Before she could speak, Jacob stepped forward. "Can I try?" The crowd turned to him, eyes wide with surprise. Cecilia felt a thrill of hope. This was it. This moment could change everything, not just for Jacob but for all of them. As he shaped his thoughts into words, a question burned in her mind: would they embrace his truth, or would fear still shadow their connection? And with Jacob's tentative voice echoing across the backyard, the possibility of transformation loomed. What truths would emerge from his heart, and how would they reshape their community? Jacob took a deep breath, the air heavy with anticipation. He felt as if 1,000 eyes were trained on him, waiting for something big to spill from his chest. The laughter of children and the soothing rustle of leaves felt far away, but the heartbeat of the moment thumped louder, urging him on. I've never done anything like this before," he began, his voice shaky yet determined. "I mean, I've never shared my story. But Elaine, you're so brave. I can't sit back anymore." The crowd shifted, murmurs of encouragement floated through the air like gentle puffs of wind. Jacob rubbed the back of his neck, contemplating the right words as memories flashed in his mind like photographs, some warm, some painful, all etched into his soul. He swallowed hard, pushing through the tightness in his throat. "I lost my brother last year. He was my best friend. We shared everything. And since then, I've felt lost. Like I don't belong anywhere. I've just been floating, you know. I see everyone laughing, having fun, and I feel like I'm not supposed to be there." The silence enveloped them, heavy yet inviting. Jacob could see heads nodding, faces softening. Empowered by their understanding, he pressed on. "I thought shutting myself off was the answer. But then I started to realize that, deep down, I wanted to be part of something. To be connected. I see all of you, and you make me believe that it's possible." Cecilia's heart swelled with pride and empathy. The vulnerability in Jacob's voice broke through layers of sadness, revealing a path toward healing. She glanced around the circle. She could almost feel the support radiating back to him, an embrace from the very community he yearned to join. "But I'm scared," he admitted suddenly, his voice almost a whisper. "What if you don't accept me? What if my pain is too much?" His teeth pulled at his lower lip, anxiety flickering through his features. Then, without hesitation, Elaine stepped forward, her eyes filled with understanding. "You're not alone, Jacob. We've all faced our own battles. We're here because we care. You sharing this is a gift to all of us. Don't hold back." Cecilia felt a mixture of courage and warmth surge again in the backyard. Jacob straightened a bit, taking comfort in Elaine's words. However flawed and broken he felt, this place, this community was ready to accept him, just as it had accepted Elaine. "I don't want to be a ghost anymore," he finally said, the tremor in his voice dissolving into something steadier. "I want to be here, with all of you. I want to share laughter again, to feel joy even though it seems impossible at times." The audience remained captivated, and as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long golden strokes across their faces, they collectively drew closer, as if magnetized by his honesty. Cecilia stepped forward, her own emotions bubbling to the surface. "You belong here, Jacob. With us," she stated, her voice laced with warmth. "You're hurting, and that's all right. Let us carry some of that weight with you. We all need one another." Suddenly, the crowd erupted into soft applause, a tidal wave of acceptance washing over Jacob. Tears brimmed in his eyes, but this time they weren't just from despair, they were tears of hope. For the first time, he didn't feel like an observer, but a part of the rhythm beating in the heart of the moment. As laughter broke through once more, Jacob could sense a shift within himself, as if a door he thought was long locked had creaked open just enough to let the light spill in. He felt lighter, and a sense of belonging that had eluded him for so long began to settle deep in his bones, and then, in a soft yet purposeful voice, Jacob asked, "Can I invite you all to share your stories too? Maybe we could learn from each other, support one another." In that instant, a shared spark ignited around the fire pit. Would they all step up to share, or would some remain shrouded in silence? The backyard shifted once again, the stillness transforming into an open canvas of willingness, and beneath it, a question lingered: how far would they venture into this newfound connection? As the air thickened with possibility, Jacob's heart raced. He scanned the faces around him, each glowing in the twilight, a constellation of support waiting for its turn. The silence hung there, a fragile thread about to snap. Then, a voice broke through the rich tones of Marcus, an older man with salt and pepper hair and laughter lines etched into his face. "You know, Jacob, courage is contagious. I admire you for speaking up. I lost my wife 3 years ago. I thought I'd never laugh again. But I found that sharing my story helped me breathe again." A flood of warmth washed over Jacob as he nodded, silently urging others to join. "Yeah, I get it," chimed in Sarah, a young woman with bright blue eyes. "My brother passed away suddenly last summer. I felt this weight, like I was made of stone. But talking to friends helped. I learned it's okay to not be okay." One by one, people began to share their pain, their fears, and their healing. The tales wove together like a tapestry, each thread vibrant and uniquely frayed, yet collectively forming a portrait of resilience. Jacob felt the weight of his pain lift further. It was shared, no longer his burden alone. Cecilia listened, astonished at how their stories wove threads of empathy into the fabric of their community. She felt her own heart swell, not just with sadness for missed connections but with pride for the strength they all exhibited. There was something profoundly beautiful about how vulnerability could tie them together. "Thank you for letting me join this circle," Jacob added with a newfound steadiness. "It's not just about loss. It's also about love, isn't it? We loved deeply, and that's what's worth sharing." The sun dipped lower, casting purple and orange hues across the horizon. Jacob's voice gained strength as he spoke of memories shared with his brother, funny moments, adventures, moments of silence. The laughter rang like bells around them, blending with the gentle breezes. Suddenly, a soft voice from the back caught them off guard. "I don't think I can share." It was Naomi, a peer who often stood on the fringes. She shifted nervously, biting her lip. "What if my story feels too small? What if it doesn't matter?" "Naomi," Jacob said, his gaze piercing through the shadows of doubt she held. "Every experience matters. Your voice matters. Don't let your fears silence you." The crowd nodded as if in unison, encouraging her to find her voice. The room vibrated with energy, and little by little, Naomi felt the warmth seep into her hesitation. I lost my job last year. It made me feel worthless," she confessed, tears pooling in her eyes. "I thought it was the end of the world. But talking to all of you, I realize it was just a chance to find something better." The applause that followed was thunderous, as if honoring not just her strength but every ounce of courage that filled that space. As they shared one final laugh at some light-hearted joke Jacob made about his brother's terrible taste in music, he noticed the moon peeking out, a soft glow wrapping around them like a reassuring hug. In that moment, bonds formed and fears shattered as hearts opened together. Jacob couldn't shake the sense that something profound had ignited a fire of connection burning bright and steadfast, but just as he began to settle into this warmth, he felt a chill. A sudden realization washed over him. What if sharing their stories opened doors he wasn't ready to walk through? Would the shadows of his past come creeping back? With that thought lurking in the air, he glanced around the circle, wondering who might speak up next. Would the next person reveal a story that shattered their collective understanding of pain even further? Or would darkness descend again, overshadowing their newfound camaraderie? The laughter gradually faded, and an expectant hush settled over the group. Faces turned toward a woman named Caroline, who had been listening intently. Her dark curls framed her face, framing her sincere expression. She looked up from her hands, which had been wringing together nervously, and took a long, steadying breath. "I haven't said much because I felt out of place," she started softly. "I lost my dad last year. He was everything to me, my rock, and I still can't wrap my head around it all. But that's not really what I want to talk about." The group leaned in, the air was electrified with anticipation. Caroline continued, "What hurt the most wasn't just losing him. It was the feeling of being alone in a crowded room. My friends faded away. They just didn't know how to handle my grief. It was like a wall went up, and no one could see me anymore." Empathy glimmered in the eyes around her. Jacob felt a tightening in his chest, he knew that sense of isolation too well. "But then, when I finally let myself feel that pain, I started writing him letters," she confessed. "At first it was just those painful thoughts tumbled out, but eventually it turned to gratitude for the time we had. I even started sending them to a little cafe where I used to work with him. It became our special spot. I'd leave the letters for him just so I felt like I was talking to him." A murmur of surprise rippled through the circle. Jacob could see others nodding, feeling the weight of her words settle over them. "Over time, I felt that wall begin to break down. My friends came back. I learned it's okay to ask for help. To share that I'm still sad. I realized I'm not alone even when it feels that way," she concluded, wiping away a tear that glistened like a star under the night sky. "Caroline, that's beautiful," Jacob said, his voice soft yet steady. "You've added a layer to this space. It's amazing how love can persist, even through loss." Encouraged by her vulnerability, others began to share their stories too, fears masked as trivial complaints and aspirations softened under the weight of loss. Every tale stitched together a patchwork of sorrow and resilience, a reminder that they were all navigating the same storm. With every story, something new flickered in Jacob's heart. He felt a deep sense of connection brewing, a bond forged in the rawness of their shared humanity. Yet, with each moment of honesty, he also wrestled with the tide of unshared emotions within himself. As he caught Cecilia's glance, he saw a mirror of his own struggles reflected in her eyes. She leaned forward, on the edge of her seat, yearning to break free. "If it wasn't for this circle, for all of you, I don't know if I could have found the strength," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But I need to say something." Before she could continue, the sound of a loud crash reverberated outside, jolting them from their shared moment. The door flew open, and a frantic figure stumbled in, dust-covered and wild-eyed. It was Ryan, a member of their community, his face drawn tight with urgency. "I need help," he shouted, breathless and desperate. "It's Emily, she's gone missing." The atmosphere shifted instantly, tension coiling around them like a live wire. Jacob's heart raced. The warmth of connection they had just built felt worlds away, eclipsed by the urgency of a new and haunting reality. As they all turned to one another, uncertainty loomed. Would they lean on each other again, or would this time of camaraderie give way to chaos? Ryan's words hung in the air, a chilling specter that replaced the warmth of shared stories with a thick blanket of dread. The room felt smaller, shadows creeping into every corner as fear took hold of the group. "What do you mean, gone missing?" Jacob's voice broke through the haze, steady yet trembling. He leaned forward, trying to meet Ryan's frantic gaze. "I was just down the street. She was supposed to meet me after an errand, but I waited and waited. She never showed. I went to check on her, but her apartment was empty." Ryan's breaths came rapid, each word tumbling out like a boulder rolling downhill. Caroline shot up from her seat, her earlier composure from sharing her own grief now replaced with a fierce urgency. "Did you try calling her? Texting?" "I called. No answer. I need help." Ryan's eyes darted from face to face, a plea woven into his expression. A tense silence blanketed the group. Jacob's mind raced. He was no stranger to loss or uncertainty. But this was different. This was immediate, pressing, and real. "We should split up and look for her," Cecilia suggested, her voice steadier than Jacob felt inside. "Maybe she just lost track of time or got caught up in something." "Yes. Let us cover more ground," Caroline chimed in. The determination in her voice was infectious. "Who knows the area well?" Jacob asked, as his heart pounded a little less ferociously. They were springing into action, transforming their anxiety into a mission. "I know a few shortcuts," Ryan replied, his breath beginning to slow as purpose seeped back into him. "Let South check the park near the cafe first. She sometimes goes there to read." A wave of solidarity surged among them. The very bonds they were forming fueled their urgency. Each person gathered, readying themselves for the task ahead. Jacob felt an unexpected surge of courage as he glanced at Cecilia, her eyes bright with determination. "Let us do this," he said, voice low but filled with hope. He found a small smile emerging on his lips, as if daring the darkness to match their collective light. They dashed toward the door, adrenaline igniting their steps. The street outside was dim, the fading light casting long shadows. It was strange how quickly fear could transform a comforting space into an urgent battleground. Each step felt like a beat in a chaotic rhythm of hope and fear, their breaths synchronizing as they raced down the sidewalk. Night had begun to fall, and every corner seemed to hold shadows that whispered doubts, but they pressed on. A buzz of determination surged through the group, and as they rounded the corner toward the park, a sudden realization struck Jacob. What if this mission revealed their own buried struggles? What if confronting Emily's disappearance forced them to face their own pain? "Wait," he said, halting the group. "If we're going to do this, we should be honest with each other. If something happens, we can't just be strangers again." Nods of agreement rippled through the group, binding them closer. In the face of uncertainty, there was safety in vulnerability. The fear of losing one another now intertwined with a renewed understanding of their connection. As they approached the park, a soft glow from the lanterns illuminated the path ahead. Jacob's heart raced with both dread and hope. Would they find Emily, or would they uncover more of themselves in the process? And with that thought lingering, they stepped into the unknown, where truth and fear danced hand in hand. What revelations awaited them among the trees? The park was quiet, the last remnants of sunlight fading, leaving a dusky calm that felt almost sacred. Jacob felt the weight of his breath catching in his throat. He glanced at Cecilia, her expression fierce with determination, as the group gathered their strength. Together, they moved between the trees, their flashlight beams cutting through the dark. "Emily!" Ryan called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. It bounced off the trees but brought no responsive whispers or rustling leaves. Only silence filled the spaces between hope and fear. They fanned out, each of them slipping down different paths. Jacob found himself beside Cecilia, a shared sense of purpose electrifying the air around them. "She said she liked to read by the lake, right?" he asked, trying to steer his thoughts towards something hopeful. "Yes," Cecilia replied, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "Let us check there first." As they moved deeper into the park, shadows creeped in around them, each rustle of leaves sending a shiver up Jacob's spine. With each step, he felt the memories of their earlier gatherings surge forward, those shared stories bleached by fear, yet now igniting within him a resilience he hadn't known he had. As they neared the bank of the lake, the moonlight spilled soft silver over the water, casting a glimmer that felt almost inviting. "Emily!" Ryan called again, desperation creeping into his tone. "Where are you?" In that moment, Cecilia reached out, gripping Jacob's arm tightly. "What if we don't find her?" she whispered, her brows knit together in fear. "We will," he replied, his voice firm. "Don't lose hope." Just as he spoke, a soft voice carried through the night like a gentle whisper on the wind, "Help, please. Emily." Ryan sprinted toward the sound, a shot of adrenaline propelling them forward. Jacob and Cecilia raced after him, their hearts pounding like drums in rhythm with the urgency of the moment. they broke through the clearing, and there, near the water's edge, was Emily. She sat curled up, knees drawn to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Her book lay forgotten beside her on the ground, open to a page filled with sadness, echoing her emotions. Emily. Ryan reached her first, dropping to his knees beside her. Are you okay? I couldn't breathe, she sobbed, her voice breaking like glass. It felt like everything was too much, too overwhelming. The words spilled out, raw and real, with a deep, instinctual understanding. Jacob knelt beside her, bridging the gap between despair and comfort. You're not alone anymore, he softly said, placing a reassuring hand on her back. We're here. We've all faced our storms this year. The words flowed easily, his earlier fears dissipating in the presence of connection. Cecilia joined them, squeezing Emily's hand. It's okay to feel lost, she said gently. It's not about drowning in isolation. It's about sharing those burdens. We're all in this together. As they surrounded Emily, something shifted in the air. This was vulnerability, unfiltered and real. It was the very connection that had pulsated between them before, now illuminated in a new light. The dark moments shared earlier revealed a softness in their relationship, a community in healing. Emily turned her tear-streaked face toward them, her breath calming. I was scared I wouldn't make it back, scared of falling apart in front of everyone. Jacob felt his heart tighten. He understood that fear all too well. Falling apart can lead to beautiful things, he said. Courage comes in many forms. Here, with us, you don't have to wear a mask. You can just be you. One by one, the group began to gather around them, their expressions filled with concern and compassion. Jacob could see them rallying together, united by shared stories and the strength of understanding. Are we okay? Ryan asked, his voice breaking the stillness. It was a question that held more than just concern for Emily. It encompassed all they had shared, the struggles, the fears, the hopes. Cecilia nodded, pulling Emily close, a gentle embrace, as a silent affirmation passed between them all. We're okay. Together, she whispered, her eyes sweeping across the circle. Under the moonlit sky, they were woven together, like stars forming constellations, each light unique yet contributing to the beauty of the whole. Jacob realized that moments of deep connection could emerge from even the darkest of places. As they helped Emily to her feet, both physically and emotionally, Jacob felt something shift within himself. The darkness that had lingered began to fade, making way for acceptance, love, and the promise of newfound hope. Standing together, they walked back toward the main path of the park, each of them linked by fingers, hearts, and courage. No one was alone anymore. No one needed to hide their pain, as they had learned that sharing their burdens not only brought them closer but transformed their community into a tapestry of resilience and love. And in that shared silence, with the moon bearing witness, Jacob whispered to himself, this is the moment, our moment. As they stepped onto the path leading to brighter skies, he knew this was just the beginning of a new story woven from shared struggles, love, and the strength of a community reborn. The journey may have begun as a search for a missing person, but it blossomed into a quest for understanding, healing, and an undeniable bond, binding them all together in ways only love could. This is your chance. You need to subscribe now if you want to keep up with stories like these that unite us. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and bring more people into our shared journey. Comment below your feelings about this transformation and the power of community. Don't wait not even one more second, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how love can save us all.